Welcome to John in Theory. I am John Negroni, and I'm so happy to be back after some time away from the streaming. So, what's been going on? Simply put, I have been far too busy to stream this week for several reasons. I can't actually get into all of the reasons, which is a little bit of a bummer. I can't be open about everything, but the main thing is that Sundance is upon us, Sundance 2021. And so I've been spending the last like 2 weeks now preparing for it to watch some screeners ahead of time. I've been having to get a lot of work done because like the next 5 days or so, I'm gonna be watching movies from sunup to like way past sundown, and so with all that stuff going on, I just haven't had like time in the day to actually like sit down and do a stream, which is a shame because there's been plenty of stuff to talk about, including this stuff about monsters at work, which I'm super excited to talk about. But yeah, just want to get that out of the way. You will not be hearing from me much over the next week, thanks to Sundance. Of course, if anybody is excited or wants to know anything about like the new Sundance films, hit me up. I'll let you know what I think. We'll be doing tons of coverage for that on Cinemaholics and everything. But yeah, and also hit up the live chat if you have any questions. But we have a lot. We have to get to work talking about monsters at work. So let me start from the ground up on like what Monsters at Work is. Monsters at Work is a Disney Plus series. It's the first long form Pixar show that is computer animated. Now, we know, yeah, Buzz Lightyear, there was that thing in like the early 2000s. I don't think Pixar really did much with that. That was made by kind of a separate studio. It was hand-drawn animation. But this here is Monsters at Work. We've known about it for several years now. I think it was originally announced something in like late 2017. It was supposed to come out in 2020. It got delayed. And I'm even seeing a comment here asking about the release date. We do have an update on the release date that is tentative. Grain of salt. We can't, say anything for certain right now, but the current like rumor that they're saying probably, because originally it was going to be spring 2021. People were saying that it was going to come out. And in fact, when I covered it on this stream, we were talking about like all the new Pixar stuff coming out. We said it was spring 2021. It is not going to be spring 2021. As far as I know, could be wrong because nobody tells me anything. If I'm wrong, I'll of course correct the record ASAP. But the latest thing I'm hearing is that it's going to come out sometime between September and November 2021. So that is the supposed rumored release date, and that does make sense to me. Spring 2021 is way too soon. They haven't done any marketing. We haven't even seen a teaser for this thing. We've seen very few images. We know what it's about and everything, but they clearly need more time to make this thing happen. So that's what we know for now. Now you're kind of seeing this image here and just kind of setting the stage for what Monsters at Work is before we get into all of the new details. And just a quick refresher, if you don't know, this is a sequel to Monsters, Inc. It's not a movie, but it is a sequel. And it's actually going to feature characters and voices from Monsters, Inc. It takes place 6 months after Monsters, Inc. And the story follows a monster. I think his name is Tyler. He's that monster you're seeing there. He's like a graduate of like, I guess, Monsters University or something. I forget. And he is ready to start his career in not scaring, but making kids laugh. Because if you recall, at the end of Monsters, Inc., there is a new order of the day. We're not making kids cry anymore. We're not making them scream. That's scary and mean. No, what we're doing now is we're making kids laugh. And at the end of Monsters, Inc., Mike Wazowski is kind of like, helping facilitate this new way of scaring, of producing all the energy and stuff. And Sully is the new, water news. He is like controlling the factory floor. And this series is going to follow a new main character who works for Mike and Sully. And one thing that I have speculated on, because Mike and Sully are going to be voiced by the original voice actors, by Billy Crystal and John Goodman, which has made me believe that they're not going to be in the show that much, because that's a pretty expensive thing to hire those actors. Now, my speculation has been addressed. We now actually know some more details thanks to an interview with Billy Crystal. This is via Collider. So Ali Gemmel put this together. Billy Crystal shares update on Pixar's Disney Plus sequel series, Monsters at Work. This actually came out like a couple days ago, but I just haven't had a chance to cover it here, but we're going to talk about it. So we have some quotes on the show, and we have some new insights into some more details about what the show is about, and some indications that there actually might be more Mike and Sully than I personally predicted. So let's go through this together. All right, it's been a good long while since we've gotten any news about Pixar's new Monsters Inc. TV show coming to Disney Plus, Monsters at Work. That is true. We barely heard anything about it Disney Investors Day. It was kind of strange. It was kind of sticking out like a sore thumb. They were saying 2021 is when was delayed to, but then we weren't getting any more info, so that was kind of weird. Back to the article. In fact, it's been so long. The last time we here at Collider reported on the new show, the year was 2019. At the time, we shared the fun Monsters at Work logo with you and noted the expected release date would be sometime in 2020. But alas, 2020 has come and gone with no new Monsters at Work show in sight. Yeah, and we've gotten new stuff since 2019, but it's been very sparse to the point of like not even worth covering to, basically. Lucky for us, we got a chance to ask about Monsters at Work when Collider's own Steve Weintraub sat down with one of the show's stars, Billy Crystal, for a video interview. So yeah, the interview covered other things besides Monsters at Work, so we're not going to actually look at the video. But here we go. The Screen Legend made time to update us on Monsters at Work. When we kicked off the discussion, Crystal made sure to confirm Monsters at Work is indeed a series of episodes, which, yeah, I don't think we were really speculating otherwise, that he and John Goodman will be back as monster besties, Mike and Sully, and confirmed when the show's story is set. We've known that it takes place after like the main events of Monsters Inc., but it actually, I don't think it has been confirmed like exactly how long. So here is the quote from Billy Crystal. It's a series. John Goodman and I are Sully and Mike. The show time-wise starts 6 months after Monsters Inc. ended. So now we're on the laugh floor. We've created all of the new young great characters with some great voice actors, and John and I are reprising our parts. I tell you, it's been 20 years since the release of Monsters Inc., and that movie looked amazing 20 years ago. It's coming up to the 20th anniversary, I believe in September. Editor's note, Monsters Inc. will celebrate its 20th anniversary in November. Embarrassing. It's fantastic looking, it's hilarious, and we're having a lot of fun doing it. You know, kind of looking at that, I'm actually kind of scared that that like rumored like release date that I talked about earlier was September to November. I'm actually starting to get kind of nervous that the reason that's a rumor is because people are thinking they're going to try to do it for the 20th anniversary, and that might be a fake number. If that is the case, I apologize in advance. Although I could see them doing it because, you know, why not match the anniversary? They've done it before. So a couple things to unpack here before we go further. Now, if it's 6 months after the end of Monsters Inc., I think the idea, of course, will be it's been a long time since like the end of like the plot of Monsters Inc. Because if you recall, there is some time after the events where Boo's door gets destroyed, for example, right? So we can expect that like the Laugh Factory angle, like the idea of them making kids laugh, it hasn't just been like 6 months of this. It's probably been closer to like a year since I'm pretty sure. I haven't seen Monsters Inc. in a little bit, but I don't think the door gets put together like that soon after the end of the movie. So I think we can reasonably expect, yeah, like 8 months to maybe a year of time that the laugh floor has been a thing. And then, yeah, I think the point of the show is going to definitely be to launch new characters. I don't think they're going to want to rely on Mike and Sully to carry this story just because they want new original characters, cheaper voice actors. And it's kind of like the Mandalorian thing. They want to like create something that gets people talking, and they don't have to like churn out something that already exists that they're going to run out of story, because like Mike and Sully's story, it's over. Like there's not much else story there, honestly. So that makes sense to me to gear the show around that. So going further, in addition to Crystal Goodman, the cast of Monsters at Work will include Ben Feldman, Kelly Marie Tran, Alana Eubank, Jennifer Tilly, John Ratzenberger, of course, Bob Peterson. The show, which comes from creator and executive producer Robert Scanaway, will follow young monster Tyler Tuskman, an eager and talented young mechanic on the Monsters Inc. facilities team. Tyler dreams of working his way up to the factory laugh floor to become a jokester alongside his idols Mike and Sully. One thing I do want to point out, I think, well, first of all, Kelly Marie Tran, great to see her in this. I think she's also like, you know, Raya and the Last Dragon, so she's popping up in all kinds of Disney stuff. I'm pretty sure, I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure Lucas Neff is supposed to be voicing a character. That could have changed, which would be so sad. So if you don't know, I'll explain. Lucas Neff was originally going to be one of the main voices in The Good Dinosaur. They had like this whole thing for The Good Dinosaur, him, like I think like Neil Patrick Harris and Frances McDormand. And then they replaced the entire cast except for, I think, like Frances McDormand. So Lucas Neff, you know, all the lines of like he did, it's going to be the first Pixar movie, coming off of Raising Hope. It was a great time for him. And I remember hearing that he was going to be voicing a character in this, but I don't know if that's still the case. I hope it is, because Lucas Neff is great. But anyway, yes, John Ratzenberger. One of the things I thought about covering on the stream was the reveal of John Ratzenberger's cameo in Soul. It was completely different than everything we said. I'll just say it real here. His voice is not in Soul. You don't hear John Ratzenberger, but you see him. He has like a character. Pixar posted the scoop on this. Maybe I'll try to remember to bring it up on stream and show you all an image. But he is in Soul, so there you go. And anyway, back to the story of Monsters at Work. So Monsters Inc. facilities team. So he's a mechanic, and so he wants to go from mechanic to like being I keep wanting to say scare, but not a scare. He wants to work in the factory lab floor. And that's interesting to me. I like the idea of like a blue collar worker. It's probably going to have like stand up jokes in it. It's a funny idea. I'm curious though, because like the image, I'll bring it back over here. It shows him with a graduation cap. I wonder why that is. Like it looks like he's fresh out of school. So maybe he starts as a mechanic. I don't know. I'm curious. Like that's why they start there. They do show that he has to like learn how to be funny. So it's a show that's about making kids laugh. I hope that they go for the angle that like some adults are really good at making kids laugh. Some adults are really good with kids. There's the old like Louis episode where like there's that guy who just like he's a comedian and he's able to connect with Louis' daughter, or not daughter, the girl, I think his niece or something, in a way that he can't. Because some adults are just really awkward around kids. So I hope there's that angle, just because there is something kind of universal about how, sometimes people who aren't used to kids, or they just don't like kids as much, or they don't know that they like kids or whatever, are just uncomfortable in that situation. And I think that would be a funny obstacle for this guy. I like his design. It's kind of like, like a dark purple. So it's a funny or not funny, but it's a good contrast to Mike and Sully. We see another character here that we don't really know anything about, but it looks like he'll be there to help Tyler Tuskman, I suppose. Or he could just be like a side character kind of here and there. We do have this character here, this woman. I can't tell though if that's like his mom, because she's looking at him so proud. They're monsters, so like their ages could be escaping me. I don't know. This is stuff I've been wondering for quite a while. We do have some more information from Crystal. Crystal went on to share some new information regarding how far along in the recording process the Monsters at Work cast is for season 1. He revealed, quote, "Yeah, we've done a bunch of episodes. We've been on a break because of the pandemic, but some I was able to do at home and some I was able to do in a very deserted studio out in Burbank. To be the only one on the lot was a little weird, but yeah, we're progressing. I don't know when they're going to start being released, but I promise you, they're really good." So this gives us a little insight into why this has been delayed. They haven't been able to record as much of the dialogue. And it is interesting that he was able to record stuff at home. That's becoming more common. And it's a good sign that they're going to keep production going along with a lot of Disney things, because they do have like the resources to make that stuff happen. And then the article goes on, and because we're simply too excited about Monsters at Work and want to know as much as possible, we had to ask Crystal how long the episodes would be. Crystal replied to the best of his knowledge, telling Collider some are full length, some are half hour. It's hard to tell when you're just reading, but they're full scripts, and it's a continuing story, so I think it's really going to be fun. I would be pretty shocked if episodes were actually like a half hour or longer. That seems way too long for a show like this. It's not unheard of, but like for a show like this, I think it's going to be trying to appeal to kids, kids and preteens. I don't think it's going to be appealing to little kids. I think they have other shows that are probably more geared for that. And for, I think the thing to expect is that like he probably recorded like half hour to an hour's worth of dialogue, but they'll like move things around. So like that'll get cut down to like 20 minutes, maybe like 22, 24. The thing is, though, I could be wrong, because it is Disney Plus, and they don't have to like operate by the same rules. They can do whatever they want. They could also be shooting for a higher age than I'm expecting. Like I'm expecting that they don't want to do that because they want kids to watch this show. They want this to be catered toward kids, because then kids want to go to the parks. They want to get Monsters Inc. merchandise. There's much more money in that side of the market than appealing to millennials like me, who 20 years ago saw Monsters Inc. in the theater. Yeah, like a bunch of us are going to watch the show because we love animation, and like, we're going to enjoy it, even though it's made for kids. But if they're only going after people like me, that's the thing. It can appeal to me, but I think like their priority needs to be appealing to children as much as possible. And so like, because of their attention spans, I don't think longer than 25 minutes, that's kind of pushing it. But hey, especially a show of this nature, it's not action, it's not adventure. It looks like it's comedy. Really hard to do episodes that long. So that is my prediction. I guess I will be proven right or wrong in due time. Okay, but that's it. And the other thing too about this article is I saw an image for that Chip and Dale show that Disney Plus is supposed to be coming out with that we still don't know anything about. Very frustrating. But okay, those are all of the new details, the new insights of Monsters at Work. Let's take a look at your questions. I want to see what you all are talking about. What are you all saying? My goodness. All right, so Lauren says, we should have gotten a sequel way before the prequel was ever a thing, but I'm really looking forward to the series. Yeah, I agree. I think the nice thing that is that even though we're getting this a while after Monsters University, the advantage is that Mike and Sully's characters are really fully thought through at this point. Like Monsters University was Mike's story. That's where his character really goes through like the main progression. He does also have a character arc in Monsters Inc., but it's a secondary arc. And then in Monsters Inc., that's Sully's story. So now, it's cool because now we get this new thing and it's going to be about somebody totally different. As Henry says, I was really looking forward to more info during Disney Investor Day 2020. Same. I was worried it had been scrapped, so I'm glad we have new info. I didn't think it was scrapped. I was worried. I mean, obviously that did go through my head. Like, how could it not? It's like, why are they downplaying this? My worry is that they were going to keep delaying it and it was going to be just kind of a shell of its former self. But I'm glad it's still here. I know, like, I got a lot of flack for that Pixar popcorn video where I heavily criticized it. The most dislikes I've gotten yet on a video, which that's fine. That said, like, I was so disappointed with Pixar popcorn, and I was like, I hope stuff like this didn't like get in the way of like more time and energy being put into other things like Monsters at Work, which it's not original, it's not an original story, but it is like, I don't know, it feels to me like a more baked thing. But anyway, I've complained enough about Pixar popcorn. Do you think there could be overlap between Monsters at Work and Doug Days? Doug Days is coming in fall 2021. I was thinking about this too, and I don't think they'll overlap. They might be like consecutive. Let's double check actually, because I think you're right. I think Doug Days was supposed to be like early fall, but let's do a quick Google search. So Doug Days release date. Let's make sure we know what we're talking about. So yeah, fall 2021. It's tough to say. I mean, the fall is a big time. One of these could be coming out like in November. One of these could be coming out in September. I'd actually have to look at the Disney Plus like release slate to see kind of what they have in store, because you can't go too far into the fall because they have The Mandalorian, and that's going to be taking up a lot of stuff. Off the top of my head, I don't remember anything else that's pretty major. I think the only other the major things are going to be Marvel properties, but because those appeal to a different demographic, they can like coincide with like Pixar stuff. So that's a good question. I think we'll find out soon. I don't think they're going to overlap though. I think that they're going to be like at different times. I hope though that Doug Days doesn't get delayed. I don't think it will because they said the release date in the Investor Day. So that's making me wonder even more if we have the release date wrong for this, if it's actually going to be more like late summer or something. We really just don't know. I hope we find out soon though. Okay. I would love to see an episode that explores the origins of the stereotype monsters formed about children and humans being contagious. Yeah, like obviously like there's a Pixar theory explanation for this, the idea that like, the monsters are going back in time, so they don't want to like they're sort of like indoctrinated, or there's like propaganda that you can't mess around in the human world because they think it's because they're toxic, but it's really to like prevent the timeline from messing up. But that's a Pixar theory thing. It's not official. It's not canon, of course. So yeah, I'm sure they'll find something. Like if you have a show, you have more room to explore things like that. The reason it's not explored in Monsters Inc. is because you don't need to explain it. And so like for the story to still work, it's just about overcoming prejudice. And the whole point is that you don't know where that prejudice comes from. And like the prejudice doesn't need to have an explanation in order for it to like make sense, if that makes sense. So that's why we might still never, find out. It just might be one of those things like we overcame the prejudice and like it's never remarked upon again. We might still have a character, for example. I wouldn't be surprised if they did an episode where, one of Tyler's coworkers is like afraid of children or hates children because he still thinks they're toxic, and he's like, no, I grew up believing this, and like he won't get over like his own like hangups on that front. So that would be pretty interesting actually. Okay. I also realized that the curriculum at Monsters University probably had a lot of changes, given that now monsters provide energy to the city through laughter rather than scaring children in the past. Yeah, it'll be a funny thing to remark on of like, education changing in such a radical way and like how do they like cope with that. It seems like pretty heady material. I doubt they'll actually get into, but it would be kind of fun if they had a Monsters University episode where we see Dean Hardscrabble trying to like make kids laugh. That'd be freaking hilarious. I love that. A typical serialized animated show have episodes of the length of 22 to 25 minutes. Yeah, exactly. Like this isn't going to be something like super deep and complicated. So it's not going to be like even anime. Anime is like around that. And even like hybrids or like more serious like animated shows like Infinity Train, for example, they don't tend to be that long. So I think that's a pretty safe guess. Disney has not followed standard episode lengths as of yet with Mandalorian and WandaVision. That is true. That's why we still don't know for sure. But I think the difference though is that Mandalorian and WandaVision are totally different properties. They feel like more cinematic. They don't feel as like serialized. Because WandaVision, for example, is a mini series, and it's the same thing with like Netflix. Like Netflix just doesn't care. The reason that there's like a standardized length at all that we kind of follow is originally because like that's how it used to be when live television governed a lot of this stuff. But on a streaming service, you don't have that same limitation. You don't have to like work your show around commercials. And like this is a whole discussion you can have about like do commercials like inhibit creativity because you have to like change it, you have to go by a certain formula. I don't think so. It's the same thing as like TikTok and Vine. If you have like constraints on what you're doing, you can still be creative, if not even more creative, because of those constraints that help you focus. But to what this commenter is saying, the point is that like they don't have to be the same length every episode, and they probably won't be. The only reason that they would be around like 20 to 25 minutes with some variance, it has more to do with attention span. It doesn't really have anything to do with like the freedom to do that. And because WandaVision and Mandalorian are more like PG-13, they're more for like mature audiences, that can just really service the story and it doesn't really matter. In fact, it kind of annoyed me to that point that WandaVision, I think like the first episode was so short. I felt like it was way too short. But it's a totally different thing. So we'll see what happens. I'm wondering if the show is going to be 2D or CGI. It is going to be CGI. I believe I heard the show would be about the main character who had spent his whole life excited to be a scare, only to arrive Monsters Inc. being told to be funny. I don't think that's exactly the premise. I think that's probably like an early idea. But I think like so as we kind of talked about before, he works on the factory floor. So as a mechanic. And so like I think you're right. I think it is going to be like leading up to that like he thought he was going to be a scare. He thought that like that's what he prepared for, but now he can't do it and now he has to work as a mechanic because like that's all he can do. It's just a funny irony, and so him having to be funny, that kind of plays into what I was talking about earlier with how like I think the angle they're going for is like having kids is unexpected and like making kids laugh is difficult if you can't connect with them, especially if you like never really prepared yourself for that sort of thing. I'm sure we're going to have tons to talk about when Monsters at Work comes out eventually. I appreciate we had a chance to have a Monsters at Work day. I'm going to miss you all. I hope that I'm able to sneak in a few streams here and there, but Sundance is going to keep me hecka busy. I'm so sorry about that, and this week included. But I will be back with a vengeance and plenty more to get into across the board. My goodness, like so many things with Pixar have been coming up the last couple of weeks, and there's just not enough time in the day. There really isn't. But okay, thank you for watching or listening via podcast. I will hope you all have a wonderful end to your week. I am on my way to a virtual film festival. I'm gonna go watch so many movies. My brain is gonna melt. See you, everybody.